Hi, I'm just messing around today. I gave this to a friend actually because I'm not a Spektrum user. This is a Spektrum transmitter and receiver. But he was saying to me he was using it with an ordinary servo, and the ordinary servo was getting hot. So I have heard about it before, but rather than going searching on the net, I thought, well, it'd be best to actually scope the output and see how it does vary from a standard servo. To use as a standard, I could use these few tabas, but the batteries are knackered on them, so I got the old with the multiplex transmitter, and battery was actually flat. I'm using them for a while now. Battery's actually flat on this one as well, but I'll give them a quick charge. Here I've got the a box standard old servo, a multiplex receiver, yeah, and a mini receiver, and I'm supplying it with 5 volts, and that is on channel 1, which would be the aileron. So just to prove that we're all set up here, I'll switch the transmitter on, yeah, and then I'll connect the 5 volt supply. Hopefully it will. Okay, right, so I haven't got the disc, output disc with me, but take it from me, it's working perfectly. Okay, so we'll get around to the other one in a minute. So if I take a trace of this one, it never gets hot with the multiplex transmitter and receiver, or any Futaba. Is only with Spektrum. So the purpose of the using the multiplex setup is to get a reference waveform to compare with the Spektrum one later. So what we'll do now is replace the output channel 1 here. Okay, well, in fact, let's turn it off a minute. Remove the power supply. Right, okay, I've got this little concoction here I can remove. Okay, let's start again. Remove all this junk. So I've got a receiver here, 5 volts coming in. I've got an old servo lead, channel 1 out, channel 1 out, and I'll connect the scope to the negative lead, of course, and the signal wire. Okay, into the signal wire. Right, we'll connect up the supply. Things right there, yeah. Positive. Turn on the power. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Right, so I don't know if you can actually see the numbers here, but that's 1 volt peak to peak. So let's say 0.5, but let's get rid of the other trace. Right, trigger, and so let's time base down. Okay, so that's our. Be interesting actually to This is 2 milliseconds division. Let's do 1. I don't know if I can get it. Yeah, 1 millisecond per division. As you can see, that pulse length is 1.5 milliseconds long. A shade over 2 milliseconds long on full right aileron. Down to a shade under 1 millisecond long for left aileron. And the difference between that and 0 is the fixed pre-pulse. So, and the repetition rate is okay. So the repetition rate is, and there we got 5 microseconds, so milliseconds. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20 is about 22 milliseconds. So that is the waveform from the multiplex receiver going into the servo. So what I'll do with this is, what I'll do now is save this as a reference file. So if I go into here and change current one, color grey. That's horrible, isn't it? Let's change it to green. And okay, so let's save. We'll disconnect the receiver. Disconnect the receiver. We'll disconnect the, as you can see, that's the reference pulse there. But turn off the transmitter. Remove the probes. So now we're going to set up the other transmitter. We're going to get the other receiver. Okay, so that's the setup. Right, we connect up the supply. Okay, we turn on the transmitter. We should have a pulse. There he is. Right, you can see right away what the problem is, can you? I will turn. This is turning it. Clearly, the refresh rate is much higher. The pulse length appears to be the same, but we'll check that in detail a bit later on. Well, we can actually do that by so your pulse height is the same. I don't know if this steering control is going from maximum to minimum, I don't know, but we're talking about 5 milliseconds per division, so no problem. I got no problem with it. The pulse is exactly the same. The refresh rate is different. Refresh rate is every, if I can, the refresh rate before was every, you know, if I turn this down, the refresh rate here is every 5, 10, 15, 20 milliseconds. That's standard. But the refresh rate on this one, oops, right, that's 1 millisecond. So in fact, you see your pulse length now. So that's 2 milliseconds to 1 millisecond. Actually, it's dead on as well. So it's actually more, should I say, accurate. And mind you, it might be adjusted on the menu for more movement on the other ones. So we won't compare radios at the moment. But that is being refreshed every 5.5 milliseconds. Wow. That's every 5 milliseconds as opposed to every 20 milliseconds. So the refresh rate is 4 times faster. That's the reason it gets warm. It can't respond. We showed that the refresh rate down to 20 milliseconds or even 15 milliseconds, you'd be happy. But especially on only 3 or 4 channels. The old RC, very old RC, was the refresh rate was like sort of very approximate. It was in some cases 12 milliseconds, 15 milliseconds. Although the protocol at the time, right through, has been 20 millisecond refresh rate. But there lies I say the problem. The servo, modern servo won't do it, handle it. But it won't. The modern servo won't look any different. This has nothing to do with digital, I don't think, because that a standard pulse train will drive in the digital servo just as easy as it will drive an analog servo, because the difference is in the servo, not in the receiver. But that's the reason it gets hot. There you go. This is the setup. We got the transmitter, Spektrum transmitter. We got the little tiny receiver. We're scoping one of channel 1 out. 5 volts in, and just for the sake of it, what I'll do now is well, I'll disconnect a minute. I'll disconnect. I'll pull this the lead, the sensing lead. I'll put a standard servo in. Okay, put the standard servo in. Really needed an output arm, didn't I? Right. I'll put a clip on. Okay, that's better. Right. That's it up. You see that? See? So he's working fine. And that is one old servo. That's a high-tech HS300, but I can feel him buzzing. But that's no big deal, is it? We've had those buzzing in the past, and I can't feel him getting warm. So what I think I might do is I'll see if I can find an older servo. I'll see if I can find an older one. Well, I've searched high and low. I can't find a really old servo, but I found a Futaba 3004 by the linkage. I don't know what it came out of. But this is this was the standard servo you find in model aircraft before the sort of high tech started taking over the scene. Quite reliable servo, standard servo, so it's a perfect one to test this system here. If I put that one in, the plug won't fit. Bollocks. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to trim this one. A little polarizing peg, ridge on top. Remove that one. Okay, right. Should fit. There it goes. Okay, so let's see what happens. We'll connect them up. Connected now? No, we're not. Connected. Radio's on. I'll leave him connected for a while and just see if he starts getting warm. They certainly work perfectly alright. It's not getting warm. If it's getting warm enough that he notices, then the person who uses it, I feel him warmer now. He is warming up. Yes, he is. Only very mildly at the moment. I'll just leave him there for a minute. I can hear him buzzing, yeah. Well, I can detect a slight rise in temperature on this side, but not much. Very little, only talking about a degree or a couple of degrees or so. Very few degrees. So it really is a case of just trying out what, if you got this whatever Spektrum system, some of your servos might get hot, some of it can handle the refresh rate, a faster refresh rate will be okay, will be fine, because the signal is the same. The pulse that it's receiving is exactly the same spec. It's just a repetition rate that's much faster. The servo can't respond to the faster repetition rate. It is quite a bit faster. It is gently warm, but I don't think it would bother me, to be honest. Don't forget these are things that are flying through the air. Or even in a boat, in a closed boat. I wouldn't be at all I wouldn't be at all concerned about this. It's not like a 1 watt resistor sort of getting hot. I'll be happy with that, yeah. Ever so slightly warm, but then again I've never tested these for warmth over a period of soaking, like, you know. Right, so that's the story there.